Welcome to selfdiscoveryradio.com, where the orchard of wisdom is just ready for picking. We celebrate your why, the journey that you've taken that inspires someone else. We support your services, we support your story. Come and be our guest, become a host, be an author with us. Come and see what we've got. Our next show is...
The Wellness Journey inspires, enlightens, and informs women over 40 and all the people who love them. It is a journey that we will take with tips from authors, doctors, and practitioners of holistic living. During this show, experts in the field will provide tips, tools, and techniques that are fun and simple for all to try. Come join me on this journey. Get inspired, get informed, and get well. Hi, this is Linus, and welcome to the Wellness Journey podcast series. I'm so glad that you decided to spend some time with us today. And I'm always excited with the guests I have, but I'm especially excited to have the guests that we have today and excited about what we're going to be talking about. But before we go to her, I just wanted to first thank Self-Discovery Network for the wonderful job they're doing in producing the Wellness Journey podcast series. It's wonderful to be able to come to you in video now. So we have our podcast that goes to iHeartRadio and SoundCloud and all the other wonderful distributions, but now you can see us in video. And if you are listening on the podcast, feel free to go to our site, which is the Self-Discovery Radio Network, and you'll see my banner, the Wellness Journey Podcast, and you can actually see me. Yay! So we're excited about that and excited that you're joining us today. Now, we're going to be talking today about something that is near and dear to my heart because now it actually applies to me. When I first met with Vicki Ward, which was years ago, she is an author, a philanthropist, an expert when it comes to advocating for seniors. And she was on my show, and she was talking about this book she wanted to write. And she asked if I would do an excerpt, and I did. I wrote an excerpt, and at the time I was 58. But I now officially qualified for this book. It's called Supercharge Your Life After 60. And I am definitely after 60, I am 61. So 61 as of this month, as a matter of fact. And I don't know when you'll be listening to this, but we are recording in the month of June. And I'm so excited to have with me Vicki Ward, who wrote this wonderful book. I'm showing it on camera for those of you who can see it. It's called Supercharge Your Life After 60. And Vicki, welcome to the Wellness Journey podcast series. It's wonderful to have you here today.
Linus, thank you so much for your invitation. I'm really going to enjoy talking to you and your audience today. Really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I love this book. In fact, I keep it near because there's just so many nuggets in here that I share with the women that follow me. And I'm planning on sharing more of it because I just saw something else that I hadn't seen before that I wanted to focus on. And you talk about in this book so many things that people need to be thinking about after 60, but also that we just need to be thinking about in general. So explain, why did you decide to write this book? Because you've written so many other great books. What was it about this that you decided to write this book?
I've been listening to women for a long time in writing the book that I've put together, and it was important to me that the things that they're saying that I recognize, and they're talking about their lives, they're talking about changes, they're talking about co-parenting, they're talking about taking care of aging parents, they're looking at moving past that 50 and into that 60 realm. And so having done that myself, my ears are primed to what the women are saying and what they're doing. And I know some of the things that I did that were right and that were wrong. I learned from some mistakes, and I also wanted to empower women with as much information as I could on this next journey of their life.
Tell us a little bit about you and your background and how this all accumulated to you writing this book.
Okay. I've been writing professionally for about a little over 25 years. And during that time, my first book was an anthology. It was a collection of life stories from mature women of color. That's the title of it. And what I was interested in doing there, again, listening to women, recognizing that pretty much we're all the same. And so what I wanted to do was to create a volume of stories, women's stories, whether they're talking about family life or divorce or raising children alone or marriage or all of the things that we go through. And it was important also, as I looked at these stories when they came in, I recognized that we're all alike. It doesn't matter your color, your culture, but because all of these life events, they transcend everyone across the globe. And so that was also important because it was another opportunity to show that there's a bonding among the women around the world. We are the ones that bear the children, we nurture the families in so many other ways. So it was important to me to do that. And again, it was new to me. It was my first book out. And I went to a lot of conferences and some other things to gain the information necessary. And the ultimate satisfaction was that particular book won 3 awards.
Yes, sure. Yes. So all that hard work and research paid off.
It did. Told me I was on the right track. And that's what launched myself and my business.
That's fantastic. Now, what is your business?
It's Nubian Images Publishing. And I'm an independent publisher. I have published 5 books, and I'm working on book number 6 at this time. That will be Polish Your Inner Bling, Breaking Free from Emotional Bondage.
Wow. Now, is this a book you're publishing or a book that you wrote?
Both. I'm writing it at this moment, and I expect to publish it sometime by the 1st of next year, probably the first quarter of next year. And what it's talking about, again, this is another book it's about women for women, but it's talking about that woman that is dressed to the nines, from the hair to the dress to the nails, all the way down. And she's looking good because that's what we do. We excel at looking good on the outside. And unfortunately, the inside is crying painfully because there's so many things that occur in our lives that we don't take the time to go through. It's that pain, it's that overeating, the smoking, the gambling, the sex, the buying clothes, all of that, the shopping. They call it retail therapy.
Yeah, I know what that is.
Yes.
Although I learned to do my retail therapy at the thrift stores now, so.
Okay, that's even better. But so recognizing that and hearing so much, again, I listened to women, I asked the questions, and hearing so much about that, that's what told me that was going to be the next book, because it was important. And so I'm also writing a workbook to go along with that. So women can very privately, read the book and go through certain experiences privately and write the answers in the book itself. So I'm looking forward to that.
I love that. That's a great tool. Well, that means you have to come back and talk about that book.
I expect that, and I will definitely come back.
But today we're going to talk in particular about this one. You said it's 10 tips to navigate a dynamic decade. And first of all, why should we, and why should I, since I'm now officially over 60, look at this as a dynamic decade? Why is this such a great time for me?
The reason why I highlight that as a dynamic decade is because it appears for most people, more life events will occur in that 10-year span from 60 to 70 than occurred in that short span any other time in your life. We're looking at retirement, taking pensions, getting on Medicare. We're looking at aging bodies, slowing bodies. We're looking at co-parenting or taking care of elderly parents. We're looking at the son or the daughter that comes home and, Mama, can I live here for a while? And they're bringing 1 or 2 or 3 children in tow. So all of those things are important, and recognizing that our lifestyles have changed. For most of us, we put 40 years into a career, 30 to 40 years into a career, and suddenly that is no longer there. Everyone wants that opportunity to retire, to have that time to devote to their own pleasures. But we recognize things are different here. You may have been referred to as Sally in personnel. Now you're just Sally. So this part of your identity has changed. And so there are many changes that we have to recognize so that we can know how to go through them.
It's interesting because I always say, or I have been saying since I turned 60 last year, that this truly is one of the best times of my life.
Absolutely.
And I'm not making as much money as I was making in my 50s because I work for myself now. And I may not go out partying as much as I used to. And I don't necessarily go out and get the latest outfit. But I have a sense of inner joy and peace and a sense of knowing. You could get that wisdom that that whatever you're going through at a particular time, that it will eventually pass. My hair is no longer on fire because my hair was on fire in my 20s, my 30s, my 40s, partially my 50s, until I finally got it that whatever it is that you're going through, that you will make it through. And it's just another experience, another learning, more tools that you've been.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, for this new journey. And that's another reason why people will look at the book cover and they see 5 women riding Harley Davidson motorcycles underneath the Golden Gate Bridge. And they ask me frequently, where did I get that idea? What I wanted to do was to project to anyone and everyone that would look at that cover that that's the new way to be 65 and over. That's the new way, because we have our old perceptions of being elderly and, you know, you're sitting in a chair, rocking chair, you're going to the senior center and you're sitting all day. All of those things may exist for some people, and therefore there are a number of reasons why. But what I'm trying to project to women and to men is that we can be as dynamic as we want to be at any age that we are. And so when people see this book cover, they break out into a smile immediately. And I know they got exactly what I was trying to project.
Yes, absolutely. I love it. It's dynamic and it has all kinds of messages. But one of the things that I love about this book is it really does, while it gives you a lot of basic good information to have, it also gives you some ideas and solutions in terms of how you want to live your 60. I think that a lot of times people have a tendency to think, including those who are turning 60, that when you get to that age, that certain things just kind of stop and you can't do certain things and everything else. But that's it. It all depends upon your mindset. I can remember a cousin of mine when he was 9 years old. This was years ago. He used to tell me all the time, because we used to always tell him, no, you can't go with this because you're too young, because he was like a couple years younger than us or whatever. And he used to tell us, no, it's not the age, it's the stage.
All right.
And I have always remembered that. I don't know where he got that from at 9 years old.
That's it. That's it.
But it's absolutely true.
It is.
It all depends on the stage that you are at internally, mentally, emotionally.
Absolutely. And that's, you know, we have to change the perception of others out there, because they simply think that we will be as our parents were. And it's a whole new world. It's an automated world that they could not have imagined. And we joined that, we worked in it, and now we have the opportunity to spend our retirement years in it. There's so many things we can do, from travel to riding motorcycles to taking up hiking to you know, taking second jobs, starting new careers, starting a business that you never had considered before. Or perhaps something that you thought of for a long time, but you stayed in the corporate world. Now's the opportunity. You're on your own. You can do it on your own. So it's a reawakening of how you can enjoy your life. It's a resource guide for the things that you hadn't considered.
Yes.
Because we've got a lot of resources in the back.
Yes.
And it's always been important to me, all of my books, to have resources so that, you know, give you another place to kick off, to jump off from.
Yes.
Rather than just your own thoughts.
You know, and I'm looking through the book, and share with us, there's like 10 main tips, and under those tips are subcategories of information. But share with us your 3 favorite tips that you share in the book.
One of my favorites, I'm gonna go into here real quickly. One of my favorites, I'm gonna go, the last one, well, I won't start there yet. It was important when I talk about meet your new body. That's tip number 3. And that's meeting your new body, and talking about exercise as your new BFF, your new best friend forever. And that was one of the favorites that I knew, because I and so many others like me, we've allowed all kinds of life events to shadow the fact that we don't put as much priority on our health as we should have. So this is another opportunity to wake up and recognize that exercising, swimming, walking, all of those are options for you to, you know, to look at. And the other thing that's into that chapter is also the food that we listed, all of the food lists that we put in there. There's so many things that you can eat that are so much better for you than something else. So it's not about depriving yourself. It's recognizing the foods that are best for you at any age, and particularly at this stage in life, and implementing those, putting those into your food groups. One of the other things is that it's keeping your posse together. Very, very important to me. I just lost a dear friend of almost 60 years several days ago, and recognizing how important it is to keep the connection with those people in your life, because that's what balances you. That's, you know, we're all going through things similarly. So you have the opportunity to bounce off of them, emotional issues, health issues, things like that. and you have an opportunity to hear from someone that cares enough about you that they're suggesting something that they think that you really might enjoy doing. So it's important to keep that posse together. You know, we're in a world of millions of people, but yet there are some people that you will keep close to you, that you've had close to you for a long time, because they give you the support. They're going through the same things. They have some of the same family and life issues. And so it's important to know that you're not alone. And I think one of the other ones that is a favorite is the essential life planning. I've talked to so many people that haven't done what I was led to do, and that's to create a trust. To create a trust. Many people, particularly the African American community, they do not necessarily create wills for themselves as easily or as frequently as others might. And it's important to know that just having a will is simply not enough. When you leave this world, all of your assets will be you have to go to probate court. Your family will, and the time and the money that is wasted in doing that is a lot. Most of our estates don't necessarily have, you know, large incomes, and so much of that money is lost, and the family would never see it because of the time that it takes to go back and forth to court and have an executor appointed, things like that. And so having that trust done is very, very important. And I think I've been singing the tune about that for a long time, and people really are waking up, and they get the understanding, and now they're putting the money together and putting decisions together, go and do that.
Yeah, it's the greatest act of love you can give your loved ones.
Absolutely.
To have everything worked out, have your arrangements made, have your
Absolutely
put in a trust so that they don't have to go through the expense and the frustration of having to deal with the courts and everything else. But I wanted to go back what you said, something about exercise and fitness. You know, a lot of people think that as we get older, you know, we're going to slow down and not do as much and, you know, be a little bit more sedentary, and that's really okay. But the reality is there's a little bit of a dichotomy here. As you get older, you need to move more, not less.
Absolutely.
If you've never done strength training before, you need to do it now. And there's a way that you can do it so that it doesn't wear you out, or a way you can do it so that you don't hurt yourself. Get a good personal trainer. Find out at the local gym if there's someone that works with senior citizens or whatever that knows what they're doing in terms of the kinds of exercises that you can do. Yes. But there are some very simple things once you find that information out that you can do from home. You don't have to join the gym all the time.
Absolutely. I've seen several myself.
Right. Sometimes seniors don't want to go to the gym. In fact, right now I'm putting together a series of videos for exercise for women over 40, 50, and 60.
Oh, and perfect.
The focus has to do with weight training, using weights. And it's very interesting, like for instance, for your arms, because you know, as we get older, we get more of that stuff going on and all that stuff now. So I always had muscular arms, but I noticed as I got about 56 or 57, if I didn't keep just doing those weights and then some, that I was getting flabbier, you know, getting softer, not tone. The other thing that I've also learned is that there are some very simple exercises that you can do that can give you ultimate benefits. Like for instance, planks. And some people say, well, I can't even hold a plank for, you know, 5 seconds. Well, if you can hold a plank, let's say for 5 seconds, and then you hold it for 6 seconds, and then, you know, 10 seconds, whatever, you're getting stronger. And your muscles do have muscle memory. So if you ever did work out, or if you ever did do exercise, or if you were just moving a lot more then than you are now, it's amazing the kinds of exercises that you can do that can strengthen you. And it's not so much about what you look like. It's really more about what your health is like.
Absolutely.
You know, you need to do that movement to get your blood flowing. You need to do that to try to ward off osteoporosis. It also helps with depression because the adrenaline starts going and those feel-good hormones start going. You were getting ready to say something.
No, I was thinking in terms of what you were saying. I came across it was someone that it was a trainer who had been on Dr. Oz's show several months ago. And what I liked about him is that he was showing you how to do simple exercises, just like you were suggesting, while at home, using a chair, using a chair, or using the can of peas, you know, that's in the cupboard, things like that. And you're absolutely right. We have, you know, we have misconceptions about what it means to become healthier,
Right.
and you know what we have to put out to do it, and people, they don't want to be buff. You know, those are the images that come up immediately.
Right.
You know, either they don't want to be buff, or they don't want to spend the enormous amount of time in a gym, and not recognizing just what you just described as simple exercises. And I like what you said about the muscle memory.
Yes.
If you've ever done it before, and you begin to engage yourself again, and then it catches up.
And you know what happens as you begin to engage yourself again and start moving more, after a while, you want to start doing it. You
Yes.
kind of look forward to.
Yes.
I always say, if you want to add more movement in your daily regime, there's something very simple you can do. We normally go to the grocery store at least once a week, sometimes 3 times a week, depending on what. But what you want to do is you park at your furthest stall,
Yes.
okay, instead of parking close, and you walk from there to the inside of the grocery store. Then, usually most grocery stores are very large.
Yes.
So rather than go right to what it is you're going to get, why don't you go ahead and walk up and down the aisles?
Every aisle.
That's right, because that's increasing your steps and your movement. Now, I'm not saying put everything that you see in the aisles in your basket. No.
Right. That would not be.
That would not be good.
Yeah.
But the idea is to increase your steps. Now, the goal normally is, and for women or for men too, they say it's 10,000 steps a day.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to figure out what works for you. And 10,000 steps seems like so much. But if you have a pedometer, or if you have a smartphone, because a lot of these smartphones have
They have the apps. Yes.
the apps, yeah, that will count your steps. You'd be surprised how many steps you take in the course of the day, and you haven't even left your home. So if you're someone that doesn't leave your home a lot for whatever reason, you can walk around your house. In fact, as I'm talking to you right now, theoretically, if we were on the podcast and not on the video, I would be up and I would be walking.
Okay.
The only reason why I'm not doing that right now because I'm seeing pretty strange on the video. What's wrong with Lennis now?
Okay.
So, I'm not going to do that. But I would stand up and walk around and stuff just to get my steps in. I go out into the backyard, walk around while I'm talking to my kids on the phone. Or sometimes if I'm watching a YouTube video on my phone, I'm watching the YouTube video and I'm walking around, the backyard, adding to my steps. But walking is one of the best things you can do that can engage your core. It's somewhat cardiovascular. It's low impact. It gets you outside in some cases in terms of the fresh air. So that's one of the things I think is really super important as you age, especially after 60, is movement.
It is. That's one of the things that I've enjoyed is the walking, particularly around the neighborhood. And particularly, I started taking, well, I always have my phone with me, but what's better for me is that I see these plants. I see foliage that I'm unfamiliar with. And so I've always want to put something else new in my yard, either the front or the back. And so last year and this year I've been particularly active, and I just see these plants and I have no idea what they are. And of course you couldn't explain it well enough to when you go to the nursery. So just take a picture of it. Just take a picture of it, and and you just keep it going. So that's another something. And you see your neighborhood, you see the people in your neighborhood. You look at structures, you look at homes and houses that you didn't know were there before.
No,
and
because you just overlook them if you're driving through.
Exactly, especially if you're in your car. In your car, what you're looking for is the red stop sign at the end of the block.
Right.
But you have an opportunity to get engaged, and then some of your neighbors, people will begin to wave at you because they'll see you that you never knew that they saw you before. So you're kind of building something there also. So I do agree that walking is the absolute best thing.
Now, tell me a little bit about the whole idea of being in your 60s and elder care. I mean, you're supposedly a senior, but your parents, let's say, are now in their 80s, maybe 90s or whatever, and you're having to deal with that whole issue. What's some of the advice you give in terms of elder care?
There's something that I really wanted, two things that I really would like to talk about on that subject. And one of them is that what we've done here in the book is, through the research that I've done, is coming up with a lot of suggestions and information that people who are caring for aging parents, because we're in that sandwich generation. So we have the aging parents that are older, and we have the children that are younger, that are adults themselves. And there are so many things, and I know of several people that have placed their elderly parents in care homes because of dementia and other reasons. And it's a difficult step. That's a difficult decision to make. But at the same time, you can educate yourself by some of the resources that we've talked about. Educate yourself on the type of care that you're seeking for your individual parent, and whether or not the facility that you're going to can give that kind of care and give it skillfully, and allow your parent to maintain a sense of who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And so that leads me to another piece of what I did. I just spoke recently to a group at a senior center and talked about cultural aging.
Oh, wow. Interesting. What is cultural aging?
Okay, cultural aging was something, there is another friend that she wrote, I met her in that very first book of mine, and she works with an aging population. She's back east, and she runs a lot of programs that are directed at seniors. And so one of the things that I wanted her to do, I wanted her to write something, because I thought it was important that we recognize that. And when she wrote this, it was absolutely, the title is The Importance of Cultural Responsiveness in the Aging Experience. And what it really boils down to is that we have to recognize that the population in this world is more of color than it is not. And unfortunately, many of the people that are taking care of individuals in these care facilities are maybe white people, but even if they're not, what they're doing is over time they have assembled a model, and they treat all the elderly the same. And so they've left out your culture. And so, if you are Hispanic, if you're African American, if you are of East Indian descent, you would want to be treated with the foods, the culture, and the understanding of who you were. You're still that person. You happen to be older, you happen to need some assistance in one way or another, but you still have that cultural foundation. And that's something that she is trying to teach about. And I loved it, and I wanted to include it in this book.
Wow,
that's important.
That's a term I hadn't heard of before, but that is so interesting, especially in the United States, because we are a diverse culture. Whether some people want to admit that or not, that's the reality.
That's it.
We have a lot of people of color here, and we are here to stay. We're not going anywhere. We're aging, and we have needs in terms of our care, so that makes sense. If we could learn to embrace each other for who we are in that moment in time, whatever that is, and just embrace it instead of resist it, we would be so much further along in our society. But that's a whole nother conversation. Don't get me started.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, but I really do think that that's a very good point, and something that we don't really necessarily think about, even when it comes to considering where we're going to place our parents.
That's it.
If you have somebody coming into the home taking care of your parents, maybe you're a little bit more aware of that because you're there too.
Right.
When it comes to considering facilities, that's one other thing that you might want to take a look at.
Because we have customs, we have, where they are, they may have been a decorated individual in some particular form of life. And that's something that you want to talk to them about.
Right.
They're not simply watered down to this aged body, sitting in the chair, laying in the bed. And so what she was discussing is trying to interact with them, with their past. Have discussions with them about things because they'll bring them to life. Because if you're feeding them a bland meal and expecting that it happens in that pre-assigned amount of time, and then now it's time to usher them out of this dining room and go to whatever else, that's not something that they necessarily want to do,
right.
But no one is asking them. And so if you ask people from a cultural standpoint, what is it that you used to do that you'd like to see us do here? What can we involve in? Have cultural events at the centers so that each of the cultures have an opportunity to be represented. Because until a person leaves here, until they take their dying breath, they're still within that cultural group that they belong. And I think it does a real service to an aging individual to recognize them that way.
It also does a real service to the facility itself, because while they're having these people come and speak and talk about some of these things, the staff members and the caregivers are being educated themselves. It's a full circle effect. So I think it's really good. I wanted to talk a little bit about your tip 1 because I think that's so important. It says it's time to change your thinking. We kind of touched upon that a little bit, but I have a tendency. I have a I sometimes hear my friends say, "Oh no, I don't do that anymore," and and they're not talking about things like going out and dancing out all night. These are just things that, why not? I mean, why don't you go out to a party, or why don't you get a group of girls together and go out to coffee, or well, I don't do that anymore, or I'm too old for that. Is something else that I've been hearing a lot of. Yes. What's your advice for that kind of thing? What do we need to be thinking about?
We have to wipe it out. We really have to think in terms of, this is a new day for us. Mm-hmm. Anyone who's reached the age of 60, they haven't been there before. There's new things to learn. And we've always heard that you keep learning until you die. Well, this is extremely important to recognize now. You are still alive, you're vibrant, but what I like to put in is it's time to supercharge yourself. So supercharge means to increase the power. So at this point in your life, you've made a shift. You've made a giant shift, possibly from the workforce to the non-working force. That doesn't give you any less leverage, but what it means is that you have to start thinking differently. You have a whole life to plan. It's not that you're going to sit down and babysit every one of your grandkids just because they'd like you to.
That's right.
They will want that, trust me. But what's important is to recognize this is the first time since kindergarten that you weren't forced to go out and go somewhere.
Right.
Go to school or go to work.
You have choices.
Oh, so many choices.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so supercharging means to just assume a different kind of power. This is a power to excite yourself, to ignite yourself, to do the things that you want to do. Gather your friends, get that posse, gather some of them together and do some things that no one expected you would do. And you just tell them, why, because people will ask, why would you want to do that? And my only answer is, why not?
Right, exactly. Why not? I mean, when I decided to start my business, I was 51 years old and, still a good, 10, 15 years from retirement. And basically, at the top of my game in terms of income potential. So theoretically, putting that much more money into my 401k and everything else. But the reality is that job was taking years off my life. And that job was not what God had for me. And when I look back at what's going on now in my life, I think of it, if I had kept that job, I probably would be looking my age. Mm-hmm. And I know that I don't, only because people tell me that all the time. But here's something that's really interesting to me. I think that when you are living your passion, and when you are developing that sense of joy, regardless of the circumstances, basically being like Paul, when you have learned to be content in your current circumstance,
that's it.
That light, that begins to shine on the inside radiates out.
It does.
And it does make you look different. It does make you look lighter. I get more compliments now about the way I look at 61 than I ever have before in my life. It blows me away. In fact, when my husband and I go out and he'll say, okay, let's see how many people ask about your hair or your skin or whatever. We're just counting whatever. It's, oh, you're silly. But it's so funny. And every time it happens. Yeah, and my husband and I, we just kind of laughing, and the people said, well, sorry to be embarrassed. You said, no. And my husband said, it happens all the time. Well, it wasn't happening 10 years ago like that. Not at all. But
well, you had that mountain of worries of the corporate world was on your shoulders.
Yes, I was stressed out. I was overwhelmed. I was suffering from an anxiety disorder. And one thing that's great about the 60s, or when you have that more time, whether you're in the 50s or whatever, as you begin to understand that it's important to make yourself a priority.
That's right. Absolutely.
If you want to be around, you got to make yourself a priority.
You have to. You absolutely have to. There will be people that will beckon to you, and they want you to do this, and they want you to do that. And that's one of the things that I liked about the book that I wrote, Savvy, Sassy, and Bold After 50, because it was called, and the subtitle was A Midlife Rebirth. And in that book, we talked about learning how to say no. Just wake up saying no. Just because you said yes to everyone and everything in the past. And so that was an opportunity to make the change, begin to make the change. So that book was about recognizing that you'd reached this point in life, but also you pivot just it. You want to make it to 65, and if it's staying on your job, then that meant finding out what's available for you for retirement. because so many women will be underfunded for retirement because women don't make as much money as a man. And if anyone is ill in the family, who takes off and goes to stays home to take care of the individual, right? Who stays home to take care of the babies, have the babies? Exactly. And so as a result, I was encouraging women at that point to learn to say no. You've said yes so many times. When you say no, you go and find out from HR what's available. You get out of the stores and start putting money in the 401, things like that. So that's it. That's when you're making some changes in your life and you're putting yourself first. Just because you put yourself first does not mean that you put yourself above anyone.
No.
But you put yourself first in the needs that you now have for your future.
I always say that when you're putting yourself first, that also is a very great sign of love for others, because you're taking good care of you so you can continue to be there for them and help them take care of them. You can't take care of anybody if you're sick or if you're in the hospital or if you're dead.
Not at all.
Bottom line, you just can't.
Right.
Now, what, in your opinion, based upon the 2 books that you've written, because I forgot about that 50 book, because we talked about that in one of the interviews that we did. What is the difference, you think, in development between the 50s and the 60s? What are some of the differences?
Awareness of self. That's the biggest thing. The awareness of self and just how viable and valuable you are. You know, you've gotten to that point. You know, some of us will look up and we'll say, well, wow, I'm really 50 years old. You know, and it seems like it went so fast. And it usually did not go so fast. But look at the mountain of experiences that you have to draw on. Look at the mountain of life that you have lived, and you have an opportunity now to let that life continue to be a trailblazer for you. You know, you can look back and you see how you handle situations. You can look back at the trials, at the tests, at the deaths in the family, and the divorces, and the children sending you, you know, crazy. You can look back at all of those as stepping stones to empowering you to become that woman that you now are.
I love that. In your opinion, what is your definition for you, Vicki? What is your definition of a wellness woman?
A wellness woman, to me, is a woman that is both looking at her mind, looking at her body, looking at her family, and looking at her life. Because your mind has to be ready. You have to, you know, put some planning and some thought into where you are, where you came from, and where you want to go. So you also have to make sure that your body is equipped to do that, you know, and so many of us have allowed our bodies to not be equipped. I'll put it mildly. We have allowed our bodies to not be equipped because of the things that we've done. We put it off. We don't want to exercise. We don't want to do this. So we get into a program, and as soon as there's a crisis in the family, then we stop. And then we go to handle that crisis, and often we don't get back to it. So those things are important. Recognizing that you have your own goals in life that do not necessarily or may not necessarily align with those in the family. That's husband, that's sisters, that's girlfriends. Mm-hmm. So when you can define for yourself what it is that you want, then the naysayers may come. Well, I don't know if you really ought to do that. You've never really done that before. Are you sure? You know, I'm just looking after your best interest, sister. You know, and these are some of the things. Oh, I got your back. You know, and they may say that, but they're cringing a little bit. Sometimes they're cringing because they haven't felt the power within themselves to move out and do that. And then, of course, there are some that simply, you know, the haters are out there. They're out there too. We won't give them much time. But, you know, so that exists. So it's about recognizing yourself. You are a fully grown woman. You've experienced a life of things that have created who you are now, created this strong, independent, intelligent, faithful, dynamic woman. Go out and be it.
Oh, I love that. I love that. You know what? My birthday was a couple of weeks ago, and one of my cousins gave me this card. It says goldenly blessed, but check it out.
This is it. That's it. That's exactly it. I love it. And, you know, I give you a little secret about that. The first workshop, empowerment workshop that I did, that's the music that I played.
Mm-hmm.
As the people were coming in, that's the music that I played. Mm-hmm. And it actually is a tattoo that I visions of having on my shoulder with little
Oh,
drums coming down.
yes, let's do that. Maybe we can both get them together at the same time. Now, there you go. That's a huge. Now, can I share your age?
Yes.
See, I think you're 70?
I'm 69.
69. Okay, I knew you were close to 70. And you look wonderful, amazing. Amazing. You got that inner light thing going.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Lit up from God, and just I'm on the mission that I am firmly planted, doing what I want to do, helping women, and yet opening doors for women that didn't even know there was a door there.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
They didn't even know that there was a door there. And so, as I said, when I went to the senior center and spoke to them on Friday about the aging, the cultural aging, they were stunned because no one's talking about that.
No.
And I was just stunned when I read it to put in the book. And so I think it's important. So as long as we keep this communication going with the women, the body of knowledge just grows and grows.
Yes, I really do believe that this is the year of the woman. 2018, the millennium in general is the age of women. And we're not only coming of age, but I feel like the world is really needs so much nurturing. It's so sick right now that it's going to take a woman to get us out of this mess.
It is. Yeah, we don't have some work to do.
Yeah,
we've got some work to do. It doesn't necessarily have to be on the picket line with those that are doing. There's nothing wrong with that, but we have a place because there is space.
Yeah. And with that, Vicki, thank you so much. This book, Supercharge Your Life After 60 by Vicki L. Ward. She is an award-winning author, and you have blessed us with your messages and your wisdom and your.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
It's wonderful to have you. I learned so much from you each and every time. And there'll be a link that goes directly to her website so you can purchase the book, and also a link to some of her social media. It's all there on the show page. You've got to pick up this book. I think that this is a good book for anyone to have, whether you're 60 or not, because there's some really good advice about planning, about elder care, and also about the care of yourself and your body. And it's really super easy to read. Supercharge Your Life After 60. Thanks so much for listening. My name is Linus, and you've been listening to the Wellness Journey podcast series. We'll see you again next time. Join me next week when I'll have a new guest discussing a new topic that will aid you at every point on your wellness journey. For more information on how to strengthen your mind, body, and spirit, click the link on your screen to check out my e-magazine, Wellness Woman 40 and Beyond. Till next time, keep living your life like it's golden.
For more wonderful shows like this, please go to selfdiscoveryradio.com, podcasts, and see our lineup. And if you wish to support us, we have a funded button. Please stay tuned for our next show.